Hello everybody and welcome to our latest episode of Wellness and the Workplace. Today I'm chatting to Percy from Plant Plan, and he is a Biophilic Design Consultant. Hi Percy.
How you doing, Liz? You all right?
Yeah, really good. Thank you for joining us today. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a Biophilic Design Consultant. So I work with designers, architects, and then clients on projects for their offices and hospitality as well. Just bringing planting green walls into spaces. So I'm very much more on the sort of advising on sort of best types of planting, where to put planting, how it affects people. Of course, as a company, we do all the planting green walls and plant maintenance as well. So it sort of ties in really nicely with our sort of whole overall mission. And yeah, I find it really fulfilling. It helps me help clients create, beautiful spaces for people to do their best work in.
Yeah, that's great. So with that in mind, what does wellness in the workplace mean to you and look like? What does it look like to you?
So wellness in the workplace is really, really important because I think, we're seeing a growing focus on the whole wellness aspect of workplaces, especially over the last year. We've all been based from home, being cooped in these little spaces. And I think the workplace needs to be somewhere where people genuinely do better work than they maybe even thought possible themselves. And that is, by having the right environment. And it's not just for things like plants, it is for how the environment's laid out, what the air quality is like, what the lighting is like, what the acoustics are like, and just everything like that. Just a whole having a space where people come to work because they feel like they can do better work at work than at home, if that makes sense. Because there's a lot of companies, and this is a little bugbear of mine, a lot of companies saying, oh, we're going to go fully remote and everything else. And actually I've noticed there's quite a few there's one link I saw the other day. It's some article from some banks where actually they've backtracked on that and actually realised the office is so needed. So people need this space, and wellness is such an important part of it to make sure the space is catering to the needs and wants of everybody.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's taken this pandemic for people to really closely examine what workplaces are actually like and what it is doing to people's mental health. People really crave people. People want to be with people, and while it's great working in isolation and at home and it's all comfy, so let's do our day's work in our pajamas, that interaction is really needed. It really is. Do you think what you've seen that businesses are doing enough to aid emotional and mental and physical health within their workplaces?
It's definitely become more what's the word? It's become more of a focus over the last year. I think people's mental health has been highlighted through the lockdown and through the fact we've all had to work from home. I think companies have taken on board a lot more, how people are mentally. And how to cater for people, how to look after people that have got mental health issues. I think, mental health issues are a lot more widespread than we perhaps realise. Some people might have something like depression, anxiety, they might not even know they've got it. So I think it's really employers, looking out for employees and sort of maybe just drawing alongside them saying, hey, you know what, we're a little bit worried, can we give you a hand? And I think that has massively increased over the last year. I don't know whether you agree on that, but from what I've seen, and making spaces that cater to these, these differences within people is so important. So, having small rooms off the side for people to go and spend some time alone in, but equally having a space where people can commune in, because as you said, we're very much collaborative social animals at the end of the day. I think actually to bring everyone back to work is going to solve or potentially help solve a lot of the mental health issues that have grown within lockdown, because people are just going to be able to spend time with people again.
I think the hardest thing for people is finding the balance now and giving people the flexibility. So workplaces won't just be a place to go and check emails and be there 8 till 6 or 9 till 5 or whatever hours you're doing. The purpose of the office environment has changed, and the focus has changed. So, you know, when we talk to clients now, we're looking at how space can be adaptable and how it can be flexible to suit a change in needs. So you might have, you know, a portion of people in working on a few days, but then at the end of a week, there could be 100 people in the office instead of 20 people in the office. And I suppose it's looking at ways that, particularly with what you do, how plants can be incorporated to make those spaces more welcoming, space that people want to be in, and how there can be a flexible approach to how they're used, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree. And touching on the whole planting thing again, seeing as you bring it in, thanks very much. It is so well proven that plant, and it's not just planting, but seeing as I do plants, I tend to know more about it than other things. But for mental health and for like things like productivity and stuff, plants do play a big part in that, in the sort of the whole workspace. You know, the workspace we're seeing coming out of lockdown has actually changed, I think, to what it would have been had we not had the pandemic. So I think there's a lot more focus. There's a lot more focus on people. I think it hasn't particularly. I think what it's done, it's sped up change basically. So where we are at the end of this year, actually, without the pandemic, might have taken 5 years to happen.
Yeah.
But obviously, on the sort of planting side, I took around these figures the whole time. So increasing productivity by 15%, decreasing depression, decreasing anxiety by sort of 36%, decreasing depression by 58%, I think, actually. So there's actually quite a lot of benefits things like plants can have. Of course, obviously, it's not just planting. There's things like lighting, there's things like acoustics, natural textures, even the layout of the space can all play a massive part in creating this sort of workspace that, you know, we need people to come back to.
Well, we've spoken before, haven't we? And we've said that biophilic design isn't just about plants.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, it's the bigger picture, and it's, you know, it's sort of very much it's not interior design necessarily, but it is a huge part of what interior design is, and it is about looking at the bigger picture. And as interior designers, you know, we'll often specify plants to be in a space, but actually biophilic design looks at how that can be integrated more, I suppose, into the environment.
Yeah, it's true. Of course, the planting's only one small part of it. It's a big part. When people say we want to put biophilia on a project, they often mean plants. However, but the thing is that, I mean, technically saying they want to put biophilia on a project is a little bit of a it's not quite correct. If they want to implement things that bring out biophilia, that is probably more correct. But I don't challenge them because I've got to work with them. But obviously, really the basics of biophilic design goes back to even how the office is laid out. You know, having these open spaces, those spaces for sort of, you know, we need open space, we need spaces for refuge. You know, we need. It even goes so far as to sort of incorporating maybe elements of sort of risk and elements of sort of creating spaces for people to explore, and that goes before you even start looking at putting plants or textures or colours or anything in. The actual layout of the space, and then designing with natural what's the word? Natural theories, philosophies, you might like. No, not that's the wrong word, but things like the Fibonacci spiral,
yes.
Golden ratio, all that sort of thing. Incorporating those elements into an office and not making it straight lines, bringing some circular patterns maybe into the floor, put a curved wall in.
Yeah.
You know, bringing lots of things like that, and then off of that you can then start building in sort of desks and textures, and you can bring in furniture with wood texture. You can bring some wooden flooring in. You can bring different texture on the walls, and then after that you're then bringing in sort of the lighting and how that's going to shape the space, and then you bring in the colours and sort of acoustics and planting and all that sort of thing. So when people say they want to incorporate biophilia on a space, it sort of depends how much, because they can just chuck a load of plants at a space, or they can go right back to grassroots and say, right, we're going to design this space using biophilic principles from the start. So when people say, what do you do with biophilic design? It's like, well, how far do you want to go? Because you could do the whole lot. But you've just said something there that I've been thinking a lot about recently when I've been talking to clients, and
it's this notion of having, you go into an office space, particularly where there's usually 100 plus people, and it's laid out in long rows of desks, and there'll be like maybe 10, 12 plus people on these long rows. And it's sort of, to me, the big thing is like, how can we break this cycle? Because I don't think it is any good for people's mental health to sit in this in this environment. I mean, working from home now, people are even more in isolation than working in those long rows. So, going back, what can businesses do to get their team members back? Well, get them back, but get them sat together and working together and chatting together and collaborating. It is completely the space planning in an office, which can be really affordable. You don't need to spend, because people's purse strings are tight. We're sort of now in a recession. People's purse strings are very tight, so actually we can take what people have got and just rework that plan to make it more inclusive.
Yeah, exactly. I saw a post on LinkedIn or an article somewhere. Someone saying, "Oh yeah, back to the office. Have some dividing screens for your desks." And it was literally going back to the 70s, the old cubicles, padded walls. Oh, let's stick a little thumbtack up here,
really
and let's
progressive.
have my computer about 5 miles deep. I just was like, this is just going back so far. If you're gonna have to space people out, then why don't you bring in banks of desks, or even single desks dotted around an office if you've got to space people out? Don't force people like battery hens back into the same old that we've got out of in the 70s, 80s. And even the long rows of desks, I fully agree. I mean, if you look back at Natural Man, when they're sort of building their mud huts and little villages, the villages were sort of round and the huts were dotted around in nice spaces. They weren't sort of set out like New York in long lines. I think that's just, that's just trying to. It's probably very, very efficient, but it's not exactly mentally. It's not a very good space to be in.
No, I completely agree with you. I think it sort of goes against what we're trying to achieve. As we say, we are creatures of habit, and we crave the social interaction. And for years now, this just seems to be the acceptable and probably the most affordable thing to do, actually. But when we look now, we've got this really big opportunity after people have been out of the workplace for so long. This is the time now to really take it to the next level and make a difference again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've spoken to, the office is going to become more of a sort of collaborative space anyway. So I was talking to a building manager in London not long back, and they were saying they're going to basically transform one of their floors into almost like a Costa Starbucks type thing. And the building occupancy is going to come down. But then because they've realised that people can work from home 1 or 2 days a week, it's going, from what I understand, going a lot more sort of hot desking and focusing on the collaborative social spaces. So the chances are people aren't going to need the amount of desks in offices that they had before. So why not make it a bit more funky and a bit more cool, so when people do come in, it's a space they want to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. I've spoken a lot to people about this and saying, years ago as a graduate, you'd come out of university and, you're looking for a job, and you'd sort of go through this interview process, and you would want to get a job in the best company that's got the best prospects for you, blah, blah, blah. But now graduates are coming out of university and they want to choose a place to work that has got the most sort of facilities for them. So they're going to want to work in places where there is a nice, relaxing space, where there is a collaborative space, where you can have coffee and cake or a beer after work, Yeah, exactly. I think that's just definitely something that is a long-term goal businesses need to address, actually.
Yeah, exactly. It's that whole employee experience thing. I think, for employers to invest that in their staff and give them a place to work that is, better than everyone else. It's just attracting the best talent, retaining the best talent, and helping that talent also become more productive. So the company's going to benefit out of it. It's not, by scrimping and saving on desks and buying a few second-hand white desks and sticking some grey carpet down, you're not going to get the best people. I mean, I'm not saying everyone should go and be a Google, because quite frankly, I think there's some places when if you've got like 8 employees, then there's no real point to starting to put slides and ball pits in. But at the same time, if that's what floats your boat, then go for it. But
yeah, no, you're right.
I think
I do agree with about that. Staff retention and fewer sick days. If you're giving somebody an environment they want to be in, then that's, you know, invaluable, really.
Exactly. And I think a key to biophilic design as well is that you design spaces that people are attracted to innately. So they might not even be able to put a finger on why they want to be in the space, but the fact is that they like it, and it's because they're liking that from their natural, you know, their innate tendencies are attracted to the space. So therefore, they're like, yeah, we want to be here, we want to work here, and this makes them work that much better.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And you touched on it earlier about the user experience. And so retailers are really, really good at this, and their interior of their shop reflects their brand core values. And when you walk down the shop, by looking at it, you can tell the price point, the sort of customer service you're going to get, you know, all these things. And as a customer, you walk the space and you've got that whole user experience. And this is happening, you know, more and more. And but it sort of feels like the workplace environment has sort of, it's not fully on board with that yet. And you know, I walk into so many offices to meet new clients, and you wouldn't know where you've walked into. It's, you know, the grey carpet, the blue carpet, the white walls. There's no signage, there's no atmosphere. And actually, if they take on board this notion of user experience, not only is it good for their client, good for their team members and the workforce, but it's going to drive sales, because the client, the customer who, you know, might go there for a meeting is going to pick up on that they care for the workforce and what they're selling at the end of the day.
Exactly. I know company culture isn't just a beer fridge and a ball pit, but the fact is that, you know, a great environment will breed great culture. If people feel like they're being looked after, then you're going to get a far better culture. And yeah, as you say, you're going to look after customers better. The staff are going to be far more engaged. And I think it's that, you know, if employers focus on, I mean, I think it's, I can't remember who said it. One of these quotes, basically, look after your people and your people look after your customers. You know, it sounds so simple, yet I hardly see many companies really doing it that well at the moment. It's getting better. I will say that it's getting better. And touching on retail as well, seeing as you mentioned it, there's a really nice fact for any retail bods who may ever be bothered to watch this, that if you put plants in, especially large plants in a retail space, the customer's perception of value will go up 12%, i.e. they will pay 12% more for the same product if there are plants in the space. So there's a little fact.
I think that's invaluable tip for any retailers and interior designers, actually. And I know we've spoken about that previously. I think it's really important. Just before we wrap up, is there any tips that you could give an office and a facilities manager or someone, a decision maker, of what they could do to sort of bring a bit more, you know, considered wellness in their workplace? Is there any tips that you could share, particularly with what you guys supply?
Give me a call.
Ooh, okay.
No, to be fair, there's loads of things you can do. So obviously putting planting in one of them, but make it considered. Get a specialist planting company. Don't just go to you know, a garden centre and buy loads of plants and stick them in pots, because there's nothing worse than a pot that hasn't been, the plant's not properly planted and it's leaning at 45 degrees and half dead. So my advice, you get a proper planting company in to spec it and maintain it for you. Secondly is lighting. If you haven't got LED lights, then a decent lighting setup is massively important, and actually saves money in the long run as well. And decent lighting really helps the space. And then there's just things like acoustics. It's never very hard to pop sort of acoustic panels on the walls, or bring in some shelving with acoustic, you know, bits and bobs in, bring some dividers into a space. So just help to break up sound waves and stuff, make it a bit more of a sort of less formal space. So yeah, that's probably three main things: plants, lights, acoustics. They're very much just things that you can add in very easily. If you're going in further than that, I'd then start to say, you know, things like take all your furniture out, maybe give that a bit of a refresh, replace your carpet, etc. But yeah, plants are probably probably the easiest thing to just retrofit into a space.
Yeah.
And then like acoustic hanging panels and stuff are probably next, and then lighting probably. I mean, you know, we did lights in our office, and it's fine. You just you do that, and people come in to swap the light fittings over. You don't need to, you know, rip out any furniture or anything. So, but yeah, that's my.
I think that's great. I think they're really good top tips, and it's something that you know, we can help people with, you know, which is that's what it's all about. And we're going to wrap it up there, because I could probably chat to you for hours and hours and hours about this topic. But just before we do, how can people get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about adding plants to their space?
They can reach out on LinkedIn, they can reach out on email, they can give me a call, they can go on our website and put a chat through, and you'll pick up either one of our people, maybe myself if I'm watching the chat that day. Yeah, I'll fire through my details so you can spray them around everywhere, and yeah, I look forward to hearing from anyone who needs plants.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Percy. It's so good to chat to you. Thank you for watching, everybody, and tune in next time when we'll be talking more about wellness and the workplace. Bye for now.
Bye.